Time Out Amusement Centers were a chain of arcades located in malls across America from 1970 until the mid-1990s. Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you get notified of my latest videos. Please hit that like button and leave a suggestion or a comment. You might see that in a future video. Thanks for watching, and now back to a regular scheduled program. In 1970, the first Time Out was opened to the public in Northway Mall in Colony, New York. The arcade was a brainchild of entrepreneur Tico Bonomo. Bonomo's grandfather, Albert Bonomo, had immigrated to the United States from Turkey. In 1897, he founded the Bonomo Company in Coney Island and began selling saltwater taffy and hard candy. Albert's son and Tico's father, Victor, invented a new confection called Turkish taffy. Bonomo's Turkish taffy became one of the country's most popular candy treats. People loved to crack it to pieces before opening the wrapper. The candy increased in popularity, especially after Tico Bonomo created the Magic Clown, which ran on NBC from 1949 to 1954. It continued on local networks until 1959. Created solely to sell taffy, it was one of the first sponsored children's programs. In 1970, Bonomo sold his interest in Bonomo Turkish Taffy to Tootsie Roll Industries and was looking for a place to invest his money. He encountered some electromechanical arcade games and decided to open his own arcade. He apparently also opened an instant portrait studio around this time as well. His first location, in Northway Mall in Colony, New York, was a resounding success. The next year, he opened 4 more locations, including locations in Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Florida. Bonomo opened his business just in time to cash in on the first video game boom, and by 1975, there were a dozen timeouts. By 1978, there were 20, as video game arcades began to gain a reputation as a hangout for unruly teens. Time Out began to revamp its image by brightening up their arcades with brighter colors and more family-oriented design, resulting in more expansion. So what do you remember about this arcade? Leave a comment below. The arcade chain was known for their striking-looking places, notable by their bold colors and tunnel-like appearance. After opening up his first arcade, to Bonomo's surprise, it was incredibly successful. Punters flocked to the arcade and played its electromechanical machines relentlessly. But then came Pong and the start of the video game craze, which peaked during the golden age between 1979 and 1984. The Time Out idea was perfectly placed to exploit this new craze. Each arcade ran with the same theme, tunnels and bright colors, but all were unique in design, presumably to fit the space where they were located. You could say that Bonomo's immensely successful coin-op machines were minting his own money with the amount of quarters kids were putting in.
That is the worst idea I've ever heard in my life, Tom.
Yes, it's horrible, this idea.
Okay, I guess I wasn't cut out for comedy. Anyway, by 1977 there were 24 Time Out arcades, located mainly to the east of the United States, and the figure continued to grow massively, buoyed by the arrival of Space Invaders and the resulting raging demand to play video games. Couple this with the massive growth in consumer spending during that time, which led to more and more shopping malls being built. The company behind Time Out was perfectly placed to generate income by opening new arcades. With each new mall that sprung up, you can guarantee that an arcade would be located there, and it was likely to be a Time Out. Bonomo's idea of locating what he called family amusement centers in shopping malls was a new enterprise, and one he thought would work well. Unsurprisingly, it was a genius move. Shoppers could leave their kids to play the machines while they shopped elsewhere in the mall, or indeed use the promise of a visit to time out as a bribe for good behavior on an otherwise dull shopping trip. I guess it would be equivalent nowadays of a parent giving their young kids or a teen a smartphone to entertain themselves and to keep them distracted. Time Out was the first of its kind, but the model was soon copied as Me Too arcades sprung up in similar locations, following the same business model. These included the Spaceport, Time Zone, Station Break, Malibu Grand Prix, and Aladdin's Castle chains, all of whom cashed in handsomely on the huge surge of the arcade wave of the late 1970s and 80s. It wasn't unusual for more than one arcade to be located within the same mall. Such was the demand for consumers to get in on that video game craze. With the crash of 1984 came the consolidation of the arcade industry. Time Out survived a patchwork of takeovers and mergers and struggled through the rest of the 80s and early 1990s, serving up redemption-based games to the public. In 1986, Bonomo sold the entire chain, which comprised of 74 locations, including non-mall Station Break locations, to Sega. In the early 1990s, Time Out was purchased by the Mall Entertainment division of Edison Brothers, a clothing and shoemaker from St. Louis. Tico Bonomo retired to Virginia. He died in Great Falls, Virginia on September 14, 1999. The iconic tunnel and the storefronts of the Time Out arcade chain are long gone, but you may find some arcades still using the name, but definitely not the same as before. Thanks for watching.
Hey, if you just watched my video, thanks for watching. Hit that like button and please subscribe to Eric C. Productions.